right now, here's my free guide that I have. So download that and you get my emails. And then the next day I send a follow-up email. You can also listen to them. Do you want to sign up for this? I just feel like I'm just kind of like duplicating, like, hey, keep listening, keep watching, keep reading.
If you have other assets, other lead magnets like the guides, like checklists, so if that lead magnet is already doing well and it's already attracting people, and once they get on your list, and you're just making it even easier to stay on your list and consume the content. Now, if you wanted to build a new lead magnet,
Yes.
that you could have an audio lead magnet in addition. And here's the cool part about lead magnets is that welcome back to another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast. Today we have another coaching episode, and we have Tisha Castillo, nutrition integration specialist, who's using private podcasts to attract and nurture her clients. Welcome, Tisha. Why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about your business?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Yes, so I am a nutrition integration specialist. I have a virtual healthcare practice called Simplified Health and Nutrition. And my mission is to heal the world, but on a little bit smaller scale. What I really do with my clients is I try to reach out anybody who's currently struggling with any chronic health conditions or diseases and teaching them, one, it's not just because you're getting older that you're supposed to feel like that. It's not just because great grandma Jean had it. It's not how it's supposed to be. And there's things you can do to change your health trajectory. So I help people rethink food and then rethink health so that we can continue to grow our health span along with our lifespan and not be dependent on medications, no matter how old you are or what your family history might make you think you're stuck with.
I love this. This is so needed. I can't even tell you. This is so needed. I'm so excited. Okay, I would love to know. So let's start off by having you tell us a little bit about what audio asset do you want to focus on? And if you want to even think about if you're looking to create a new audio asset or if we're optimizing an existing one, why don't you tell us a little bit about that and your ultimate goal of how you want to use this audio asset? Are you using it to attract more leads? Are you using it to nurture leads? Are you using it to sell a specific program? I think giving the audience some context will help.
That'd be fantastic. And if you can help me decide any of those answers, that would be fantastic.
Love, yeah.
Perfect. So you're at the
it.
right place. So initially, when I opened up my practice, I was writing a regular blog. And after probably about a year and a half or so, I started getting some comments from people saying, have you ever thought about a podcast? I was like, oh, that's like way so much work. There's no way I'm going to do that. But I'd really love to be able to just read your emails on the way to work. I thought, all right. So not knowing anything about the tech versions of podcasts, I would just literally record me reading my email and put it on my blog and put it on the blog and send it out and say, read it or listen to it. And that was kind of what I did for a couple of years. And I got some really good feedback for it. Then I stopped doing the blog and really started focusing more on social media and different emails and whatnot. And interestingly enough, even though I'm not calling a gender out, but the men that I work with responded back and said, your emails are too long. Like almost every gentleman that ever got my email, the women were like, no, they're not. They're great. They're telling me stories. So I was like, all right. Everybody processes differently. So maybe I've got to do this whole podcasting again. Like maybe I have to figure out a way to be able to record my emails. And I was talking to a girlfriend of mine and she said, well, try and make a private podcast. And honest to goodness, I went, I don't know what that is. Let's go to Google. I typed in some things, ended up on Hello Audio and thought, okay, is it easy to set up? I set it up in, I felt like minutes. And I quickly recorded a couple of my emails, threw it up there. I was like, oh, cool. Look, I have a podcast. And that was kind of like what I did. I was like, now what do I do? So then I spent the next, I don't know, couple months thinking, well, how do I even tell people that I have this thing? Right. So I then added a sentence at the top of my emails that said, don't have time to read, click here to listen. And it would take me to the Hello Audio piece. And then I didn't even realize that there was a form that you could like subscribe to. I was like, I didn't know I could do that. So as I've kind of been fumbling around trying to figure out what am I supposed to do with this, your question, Nora, initially about what's the point of the asset, it's kind of twofold, right? So I definitely, if there's a way that I can use it to draw more people into my space that maybe aren't interested in reading another email, I think that would be phenomenal. And I also, the point of it initially was people, instead of just bookmarking my email to read another day, it's so much easier just to be able to listen to it. And that's all that it is right now. It's just me literally spending 2.5 minutes reading whatever the email was. And that's all it is. And I don't know what else to do with it. So that's kind of where I was, where I am. And now you can tell me where to go.
I love this. I love the fact that you were like, yeah, I Googled some stuff. Your name came up. I created a feed in a few minutes and there I am. I have a podcast. I have a podcast now. Like, hey, That's music to our ears. So that is
Yes.
fantastic. And I also love this specific use case of private
Mhm.
podcasts because I am definitely one of those people who have, I'd say, maybe a handful of emails that I do enjoy and I look forward to. There's definitely a lot in my inbox that I'm like, yeah, whatever. But
Sure.
I think the ones that I really do look forward to that are maybe more value based or content based or story based, I love being able to listen to them. And I think I would consume them a lot more often. And there's something very special about the relationship that you're building with your subscribers by being able to share your voice and your stories in your voice. And
Right.
it's a stronger connection than if they would have maybe just read them in
Right.
text form. So
Right.
I do love this use case. The question is, are we positioning this specific audio asset in a way where people who don't necessarily know you, so we'll call them like cold traffic, people who are unaware right now, is this asset positioned so that it's going to provide value week over week, like weekly tips to blah, 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 right? Where they're like, yep, I want that. So they have to understand the benefit of raising their hand and saying, yes, I want that.
Mhm.
Or is it right now the people who are on your list just love it because they're getting it and they understand the value already? So they already had the introduction to you. So, that's essentially it's more of a nurture asset, your
Right.
existing people versus an attraction asset. That's
Right.
the key. I think it's
Right.
based on positioning.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you that up until I'm almost embarrassed to say, I think 2 weeks ago, I put my first social media image out that said, "You can listen to what I have to talk about." So I thought, interesting. And again, I mean, I know right now for the people that I've mentioned it to, which has not been a very big it's not a very big audience, and I'm not, like, promoting it on a regular basis, and I think that's kind of one of the questions I'm hoping to be able to take away from this conversation. Is there a way to be able to almost highlight and promote this as a way to stay in touch with me more so than
Mm,
signing up for another email.
yes.
Because right now what's set
That's what
up
I was
is
thinking.
here's kind of, here's my free guide that I have. It's called 3 Lies Cutting Your Life Short. So download that and you get my emails. And then the next day I send a follow-up email that says, "Hey, I know you just signed up for my nuggets of knowledge each week. You can also listen to them. Do you want to sign up for this?" So
Yes.
I'm introducing it bit by bit, but I don't know if it's better to lead with one versus the
Mhm.
other, if there's a way I could just test run something and not do them both. I just feel like I'm just kind of like duplicating, like, "Hey, keep listening, keep watching, keep reading," and I'm not quite sure what to do with it. So
But if you have other assets, other lead magnets like the guides, like checklists, like the other downloads that
right,
like I think I went to your website and I saw the 5 healthy foods that are making you sicker and fatter and grab
right,
it here. So if that lead magnet is already doing well and it's already attracting people, and once they get on your list and you're just making it even easier to stay on your list and
right,
consume the content, that's a very valid position of using this asset. It's not an attraction asset.
right.
It's just a way to continue to build it's a relationship builder
Accessibility.
and a
Right.
demonstrate. Yeah, that's what I think that's fair. And I think if that's the use case of it and it allows people to stay in your orbit probably longer than and have them be more connected because they're consuming more of your content, then they're going to be a lot more likely to invest in whatever that program is because you've built the relationship with them. It's a valid use case for this asset for sure.
Right. Right. Okay. Fantastic.
Now, if you wanted to build a new lead magnet,
Yes.
that you could have an audio lead magnet in addition and here's the cool part about lead magnets is that it's I think well, especially audio lead magnets, they're easy to create, right? You don't
Right.
have to spend 20 hours in Canva trying to design a PDF. Currently, I don't know if I'm the only one that struggles with that sometimes, but like clearly I have some baggage there, but that's fine. But I think, audio assets are something that you could put together and it could be another way for you to test the attraction components of your marketing campaigns as a way to bring people onto your email list as well. And then you can still offer the reading of your emails. I think that's still a valid asset to
Yeah.
have. This would be a different asset, like in addition to that. And so if you think about some of the things that you probably or even have content that you could turn into,
If
whether
she
it's
has
a
all those blog
presentation
posts,
that you did.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, like a curated set of blog posts that
Mm.
are thematic. It could be something like your simple, because you use simple AF sometimes, right? In your
Yes.
copy, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Like your simple AF morning routine for pain free living or
Right.
something. It could be very a contained asset that you're like, oh, I need that and then
Oh, that's
that way it
interesting.
introduces them. So you could do that as well.
I could see too. I'm not on your website, so I'm going off total like blind here. I was actually literally like, trying to find it and I can't find the click up. But either way, I could get to that in a second. I could see a start here compilation. Like you are somebody who's coming with a lot of content because you've been doing this for a while.
Right.
And blogging's great because I think it allows people to flesh out ideas. And like, I think other people enter digital marketing and they don't touch long form content for a long time. And so you have a lot of long form content. That means there's like gems in there that just could be repackaged and put in a more like innovative, kind of quick, easy to access way to your audience where people are like, yes, that's what I need. And I think for you, an easy like start here, catch up, like if someone comes to you and they're just like, I have to like learn a lot of stuff, like what's wrong? Like, what's wrong with me? Like,
Right.
please help me. Right. And so I think that's how people are showing up, right? They like
Right.
know there's a problem. Now they're just picking who's the
Right.
person to help them. And I think a good looking through your blog post, looking through like if you had somebody that you would say, okay, this is how you start or whatever, this is the basic information you need to know to make X changes. I'd be on that in a second because I love that it's podcast form. I love that I'm not reading it. I love that actually I think with nutrition folks and people who are in the like movement, and this lines up with probably what you teach, which is like, go take a walk, go move your body. Like you're wondering why you don't feel good. Like, you know, the answer, right? And so you're literally telling them, go take a walk and put me on and do this. So there, that could even be a lead magnet of, like
Yeah.
exercise with me or move with me and learn this kind of stuff. And it could be a drip campaign. I don't know. There's like, I feel like because we're working with someone who has a lot of content and knows what she's doing, I think we have a lot of ways in, and it's going to be easy for you to get it out there. And so you did say at the beginning of this call, you're like, just tell me what to do next. I can experiment, right? And like Nora and I love that. Like you could just throw this together really easy. And you know what? It might not land at the beginning, but like you have so much to work with. What's cool about audio is it like you could do the start here thing, record it, and probably within an hour or two, maybe three, you could throw in your whole blog to ChatGPT and be like, hey, help me like set up a start here. What are the like 5 episodes I could script out that would get people where they need to be, like understand that I'm the person for them to get them the results, not someone else. And I think, I don't know. I'm just sitting here being like, oh, we could try so many things. It's
Well,
almost like
yeah,
too
well,
much.
seriously, I think that like I am like my head right now is just spinning. I'm thinking I feel like a squirrel like collecting all the nuts before winter
Same.
hits, right? I'm just like, oh, I could do this and this and this. Because to be honest, I'd never, and this is just maybe when I think about podcasts, I
Mhm.
assumed when you create a podcast, you start it, you do all of your things, and you're like in that space for that purpose
Yeah.
exclusively. Like it's just once you start it, you can't
Not
stop because once
anymore.
they do whatever. And so
Yeah.
just like I never would have thought about using a private podcast as a lead magnet. I never would have thought about a way to be able to kind of like a start and finish for like a
It's a
lesson
closed
or like a
asset.
thing.
It's
Like
not.
it's just yeah, it's just like, well,
Yeah.
how do I just always just I mean, my emails are easy. I do those every week. So that's a simple thing to do. So I didn't have to really pay attention to who I was Googling and what I was doing. I'm like, I can do that. That's easy. But all these other ideas, like I never thought that they could be instead of the PDF from Canva or like
Yeah.
all of those things. That's really exciting. And you do that all in one account? Or like I have to have like
Yeah.
I tend to put separate I think of them as products, right? And
mm,
so I put like a product in a specific feed because I want the cover art to be specific. I want the podcast name, the private podcast name to be specific. And the really cool thing is you probably have so much of this content. But
right.
I could see even you putting together, and I don't know if you're even looking to like diversify income streams by having like digital assets that you sell versus in addition to coaching, and I'm sure the other things that you do too. But I could see things like the simple AF toolkit for insert pain, like joint pain relief, for chronic
Mm,
inflammation, for
mm.
all these different
Wow.
things. I mean, I can't tell you how, and I'm just thinking from my own experience, like how much I've Googled over the years because I have massive like chronic inflammation. I'm like, what are the supplements? What am I supposed to be eating? What are the foods I'm supposed to avoid? Because early on in that journey, right, you're doing all the research and you're
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
trying to figure out, like, okay, you go to like 20 different websites. You're like, okay, what's the common theme? What's the one thing that everyone's recommending? All right, that's probably good. But it's like, could you put together these digital toolkits that you could either use as lead magnets or even as sellable digital assets? Yes. In, long term, not to put even more ideas in your head, but if you because you do address, you have a lot of entry points is the one thing
Right.
I
Mm,
noticed when I
mhm,
went to your website,
mhm.
right? Like
Right.
people could come to you for losing weight, whether if they're gaining weight or if they have joint pain or fatigue, and I'm looking like other chronic conditions that they would identify with. So one of the things that I've seen work well in this type of a space where you have multiple entry points is like a quiz or an assessment so that you can tell where, like, what's the main pain point? Because you
Right.
don't know. They come to
Right.
your website and you're like, I run the magic I have, like, does all the things. And you're right. So it's like, but you don't know what's relevant to that person.
Right.
And so if you did happen to do that and they said, what is the, what's the thing you're dealing with? And it ends up being, for example, chronic inflammation, then you can present them with that asset or that lead magnet or that. So you have the ability to tailor and more
So
customize
exciting.
the conversation, which is really important in this space where people are being vulnerable and there's a lot of noise out there and they're
Right.
looking for someone that they can trust because you're essentially a trusted advisor
Right.
for
Mhm.
helping them be healthier, live longer, like really important stuff. And so having those types of assets could really go a long way in establishing those relationships.
So it sounds like as opposed to trying to think eventually down the road, creating some kind of a course with modules and all of these things, I could do
Do audio.
this that would kind of it would fix that. Like I wouldn't have to worry about all the other moving parts, right? This is just something that I could break out into lessons, so to speak, and have a, so if you have PCOS or if you're diagnosed with
Yes.
diabetes or
Mhm.
like a thing,
Yes.
oh, that's
And go
so
consume that.
interesting.
And it's like self-serve. And so we do have
Mhm.
people, not to just automatically throw you into the powerhouse plan here, but eventually you'll be there. So I'm not worried about it. But if you think of like there are hundreds of people in Hello Audio that have audio courses
Yes.
and they know that it's not, yes, some of them use learning management systems. So like Kajabi or
Mhm.
Thinkific or Teachable or all the things. But some of them just choose to deliver on audio and maybe they have links in the show notes to a private video or
Guidebooks.
an
Yeah.
unlisted or guidebooks or workbooks. But they do that because it's actually easier for their students or for their people because they're busy or they are working professionals and
Right.
they're listening to it on the commute or while they're walking their dog and they don't need to log in. Think about the last time you bought a course and you're like, oh, how many courses have we all bought, myself included, that
Exactly.
didn't ever get finished, right?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
just am like, oh, I forget to log in. But here, you're reaching them on a device where it's with them probably most of the day. And you're also unlocking all those hours of the day where they're not sitting here at a screen, all those little pockets of time that each of us have where we can still consume this really valuable, life changing content, but we don't have to log in. We don't have to sit at a computer and
Right.
it's not like it's integrating very seamlessly into our lives and the other things that we do. So audio is a good choice for that.
Wow, I think 2025 is gonna be busy for me.
Busy, but, like, easier than
But
you
fun.
think, like,
Well,
because
Yeah,
it's
no
audio, I'm
slides.
telling you. Yeah, no
right,
slides. Yeah.
and really there is something to be said about that, right, too, so it's just I mean, that's why I decided to start doing the emails. Well, I can do
Mm.
that, like, at any time of day, I mean, it takes 2 minutes, like, literally, I'm not worrying about I have to do an hour and a half long podcast, and I have to have all these things, like, that's just a
Mm.
big ask, right, for
Mhm.
my time commitment and all the other things and the topics and all the things, so being able to I mean, my practice is simplified health and nutrition. I am a simple person. I like things to be simple. So this
Yeah.
sounds like a simplified way of being able to still provide those audio assets without making it such
Mhm.
a big ask for the person listening or for me creating.
Yes.
Yes.
That's super exciting. Ooh, I love this. All right, what else?
Yay. What else? Yeah. Let's solve all the problems.
So we've got the attraction piece of your
Yeah.
customer journey, right? And so talk to me, do you have one-on-one coaching? Do you have a group
Mm.
program? What is like
Yes.
do you
So
have
it's
a
all
high
one to one.
ticket? Okay,
It's all
all
one to
one to
one.
one.
Yeah.
All right. Are you so you could use private podcasts to if you record calls with clients, you could
Uh-huh.
put the call recording. And we absolutely have folks that do one-on-one high ticket consulting or coaching that will create a feed for their individual client and they put all the call recordings in that feed because, I mean, I've hired business coaches, all the coaches we've ever hired, and they send you the call replay. We don't ever watch it. I'm
Right.
sorry to say for all the people out there that have sent me Zoom calls, I never watched it. And I probably should have, but it would have been a
Mm,
lot easier if it was just in a feed where I could say, you know what? You really dropped some gold on our call and I need to reinforce some habits. So I need to listen to this a few more
Mm.
times so that
wow.
I can make this change in my life that maybe I just need a little extra motivation or inspiration to do so. Now I can listen to you on repeat wherever I need you because you're in my pocket all the time. And I don't have to go find that Zoom link or that call recording
Mm.
to get your advice.
I love that. Now, would this be, and this just triggered a thought, something I was looking at implementing for 25 anyway, was that I love to just send happy thoughts, right? That's just what I want. I just want to make sure touch base with my client. Like, I know life sucks sometimes, but like, here's like a happy thought coming to you. And so, what I'll try and do with you, a text message or maybe a voice message, but it doesn't always work well. So, I could maybe create individual feeds like this and kind of have
Yes.
those.
I'm gonna look because hers was really good and we had a whole conversation of it. I'll pull the name and the episode number, but she coaches women one-on-one, and I can't remember exactly what she coached about. It was like mindset stuff, I'm pretty
Okay.
sure.
So,
And so she would send messages, and what we talked about, what's interesting is like you could send a text, you could send a Vox or a Telegram
Mhm.
or whatever, but then there's like this implied they have to write something back
Yes.
because it's like a
Yes.
communication tool. And so there's this like, "Oh, I have to get back to it," or whatever. And she's like, "What I love about it is it's one way." And like the women have to be open to just receiving the
Yes.
compliment, the
Yes.
whatever, and they can't respond. I was like, "That's so
I love
interesting." Like I don't
that.
think I ever thought about that. It like removes the like, "Oh my gosh, thank you. Like you're so great too." No, just you're doing great and
Just
I'm your
take it.
coach and like
Yeah.
I want to just say I've seen this week for you, like whatever, and the person can't reply. Like they
Yes.
can in other places, they'd have to like go out of their way, but that's cool
Oh,
from a
I
like,
love that.
yeah,
Absolutely. Well, even if you just think about using something like Facebook Messenger, how many thumbs back and forth do you go back over and
yes,
oh
over? Like, I
God.
got you, I
Yes.
got you, I got you. Like,
yeah,
stop.
yeah. It's that. It's that.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
love
something
that.
too. And then like I think Erin Lindstrom really early on in like our case studies, I think she was like an early episode, talked about all the content she's created prior. And when she has high level content or high level folks that she's working with, maybe you have something that you're like, oh my gosh, this blog post that I wrote wherever ago, like you could just drop it in their feed. And what's cool about the way we set up Hello Audio is you can copy an episode to any feed that you want. If you use it across like multiple clients or whatever, like we really made that easy because we know like our end user is like somebody who has a lot of content. That's great. So she actually literally created a library of her content in Hello Audio and then
Yes.
uses those feeds to send to other people. You can obviously add them to an entire feed if you create a feed about something, but if you have like these little nuggets that like especially when you probably have done coaching for a long time, you know that there are certain support assets that one
Yep.
woman might need that another person might not,
Absolutely.
but that you know would help them. And there's always that like admin, like, how do I give this to you? Is it going to be too big on Gmail? Like, where do I send it? And it's if
Oh,
it's just in audio in the one feed that they always
Yeah.
know where it is, that's like game changing from an accessibility standpoint.
So there's a way, so you, if I understood correctly, so there's a way to actually have your recordings and be able to repurpose them into different feeds. Because that's
Yes.
my biggest struggle right now. So, I mean, everybody has chronic inflammation. Everybody, 93% of the US
yeah, I
population is
know.
dealing with
Super
metabolic
fun. Love
dysfunction.
it.
Nah.
So there's so to
Yeah.
keep like redoing my tip to be able to
Yep.
send to somebody else is really time consuming. And I mean, I don't mind editing it up a little bit for somebody more
Sure.
specific, but it'd be great to have
The
something,
base.
a library that I,
Yeah.
Yeah.
as opposed to
So
just what's on my drive and finding everything and trying to send out. That would be
yeah, so
amazing.
this is on our feature. We don't have like what we would call a library yet. I want to say that because we have like we look at it as feeds right now, but I we do want to put a library where people could add a dynamic content piece like an intro or something that they use across or
Oh,
whatever.
wow.
But what how you would hack that is you just have a feed that has that content and it's essentially the same thing, but it is something we want to change like in the UI and add it as a particular feature. But yeah, if you had a feed that had the information audios or blogs that you've written that hey ps like you could send to anyone if you have it in a topic just so you
Yeah.
know, but you could pull that like that episode, you would literally go to the feed, go to the episode, and then you hit copy and you could copy to any other feed in your list. You could duplicate any feed, like that kind of thing. Like we realize that's really useful, you know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So with that same thought then, as far as another way to use this, if I've got 50 recordings and 10 of them happen to be about Thanksgiving, I could
mhm.
grab them and put them into a exclusive kind of something and then send that out to people that wanna be able to have
Totally.
some
Yep.
information about Thanksgiving. I'm
Yep.
so
Yeah.
excited.
You could do a holiday specific asset. That's this now you understand our problem and why we created the powerhouse plan with unlimited feeds. Cause once you start,
Yes.
you're like, I could do this and that. And you could repurpose. You could have the holidays, like how to get through the holidays, how to eating out when you're on vacation, like all these different situational assets that are very specific, but I would say like that just in time need that, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
experiencing this, then I need this information. And you can have them as all separate assets that you
Mm-hmm.
can send to clients when they need them.
Wow.
Or put on Instagram for people to sign up for. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so you're gonna spend a little bit of time maybe since you're doing such a great job coaching me, tell me what this powerhouse thing is that you're talking about, because again, I Googled you, I put stuff up on
You're
there, people
okay.
are listening to it, and that's as far as I've gone. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
know where the stats were until
We all
yesterday.
start
So
somewhere.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's just our levels of plan. So
Yeah.
right now we have the starter plan, and then we have the pro plan, which is the middle, and then powerhouse is our top plan. And
Okay.
powerhouse is the one that has unlimited feed. So most people start on starter, as you would
Right,
imagine, right?
right.
And it comes with one private feed and one public feed. It depends. Like some people are like, yeah, I'm good. I don't really need a public feed. That's cool. I don't really want to start a public podcast, but they'll still use the private feed and they'll use that, whether it's, for example, your emails, like that's a
Right.
great use case of using that private feed. And then people realize, well, I want to do more. I want to create an audio lead magnet. So then they might upgrade to pro. So they start an audio lead magnet
Gotcha.
or they start
Okay.
using it to deliver or serve their clients because maybe they have a course or group program and they put the replay calls in a feed. And then they just start realizing all these other ways that they could create feeds, whether it's like mini courses or different, more audio lead magnets or private client feeds if you have individual
Yeah.
feeds per
Yeah.
client. And then you realize especially one private client could pay for Hello Audio for an entire year. And
Wow.
you look at it that way, you're like, that's kind of a no brainer.
Right. That's amazing. And there's also public podcast opportunities here, public
Yeah,
Yes.
feeds you would
Yeah.
say.
we technically host both. I mean, I would say we don't specialize. There's a lot of public podcast hosts, I think, out there. I think what makes us like our special sauce is definitely the private podcast. We
Mhm.
specialize in that. We do things that no other platforms do for
Right,
private podcasts. And I think that's where we have probably the most fun, not to
right.
just public podcasts, because clearly we have one of those too.
Sure.
But and it is hosted on Hello Audio. So there is
It
that.
is.
But I think there is a time and place where someone might want to some people come to us and they have a public podcast that they've been paying for hosting on a different platform and they just want to have an all in one. So they move their podcast to us. In some cases, they're inspired to create and launch a public podcast, which happens. And then we do have some people that will use public podcasts. They have like limited run public podcasts, or
Mhm.
they use it in a launch, or they do
Oh,
something else with it. And they have the option of doing that because it's included in their plan.
interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. And here I was, it was like one trick pony. Like, "Hey, I got it. It's signed up. Here's my thing." And
But
I'm
you
like, "Now what do I
Good.
do?" So
you did amazing.
You did it. You did all the things.
Think about most people with tech and you think like you sign up for especially a software platform. I think we all are like, oh, it's going to take a while. So I'll sign up, but then I'll get to that this weekend or I'll get to that next week. But the fact that you're like, yeah, I just did it. It took a few minutes. And that's the feedback we normally get.
Right.
And then when the people that didn't necessarily do that or had maybe misconceptions of how long it would take, and they're like, man, that was so easy. I wish I would have done that
Right.
right away. Yeah, I know you can't only tell people it's really easy until you do it. You don't really
Right.
know.
Right. And I will just say, if you don't mind me taking just a quick second, what I really appreciated about the platform was that, as I said, I literally searched it, went in, did my thing, and didn't realize all the other pieces that were available. Like, I didn't know there was a sign up page you could use.
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't have to go through that to start it. I
Yep.
literally just had to create an account and put in a title, and here's a little picture that says upload here. And I did. And then I changed the title. I was like, okay, now what do I like? It was over. Like, it was that simple to do. But now I'm thinking, okay, well, I have it now. So how do I tell people that it's there? Maybe there's a
Mm.
form. Maybe I could put a link into my thing. But it's just set up so basic that you don't have to do all the things. You could just do a thing. And then eventually, as you start to figure out what in the world you're doing, that there's more
Yeah.
features that you can take advantage of. Right? So
So
I really appreciated that about the platform. I just wanted to share that.
Oh,
thank you.
thanks.
That means a lot. Yeah, wait till
Yeah.
you find out about all the features.
I'm a little nervous. I'm starting to sweat a little bit.
This is where I mean it's cool, but I think it's really important what you're bringing up because we intentionally designed the platform to be simple because
Mm.
we're both business owners. Like Derek and
Yep.
Lindsay and I have we've all helped other business owners. We've run our business. There's a lot of really complicated tech out there, and
Yeah.
sometimes doesn't it's overly complicated. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be. So I think we were really intentional about designing a platform that was easy and simple to use. And you still have to compete with, so we still have to add features
Sure.
and we still do all these things. And we try to do it in a way that isn't overwhelming. But then when you're ready for it, like when you're ready
Mhm.
to have, for example, dynamic content, which is on the
Right.
Powerhouse plan, that allows you to do pre roll. So a lot of times in public podcasts, you hear the ad spots at the beginning of a podcast or maybe at the end of a podcast.
Yeah.
Now we have the ability to put dynamic content in so you can run an ad spot if you have a promotion happening or a live event that you wanted to promote or whatever that might be. You can run it for a specific feed during a specific time. And we even get granular where you can tag your listeners. So if you had buyers and non buyers, or in your case, clients and non clients, or not
Right.
clients yet, we'll
Right.
say,
Ooh, I love
right?
that.
You can you can run a specific ad or a promotion or something to your people that are not yet clients. And that
Mhm.
could be different. They'll hear something different than maybe your clients that are consuming your email list would hear. Because you
Right.
probably have them tagged. And if not, you will. If they're clients, maybe past clients to reactivate them or maybe a welcome back promotion. So when you're ready for those features are there, but you don't have to worry about it until you're ready.
Yeah. So there's a obviously a lot more available to grow when needed that I wasn't
Yes.
aware of. Yeah.
Yes,
So
and you don't need to
that's
start
exciting.
there, which is the
Right.
cool part.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
I like it. I know I'm biased, but I really like it,
As you should be though, right? It would kind of
as
be
I should
silly if you
be,
weren't, right?
as I should be. That's exactly right. Yeah,
So
you know,
so
it's fun.
let me ask you a quick question that we had talked about in the very beginning too about how I'm using it right now to where somebody downloads my guide and they kind of go into my funnel sequences there. And then I send them a follow up email the next day that says, hey, by the way, you can also do it like this. And then I've learned there's some settings somewhere that they'll get reminders if they haven't subscribed yet
Mhm,
or
mhm.
something. Right.
Yep.
So what's like common process? Like, is that something where like you bug people every 3 days because they haven't subscribed yet? Is it something like you go off once a year and say, hey, remember me? Or what do you do with that?
I personally like to set up remind I usually do 2 to 3 reminders, and I
Okay.
space them out maybe, I would say 2 days, sometimes
Mhm.
2
Okay.
to 3 days, I space those out, and those are the automated reminders.
Right.
Beyond that, some of the other things I start sending more targeted messages to folks that haven't necessarily subscribed to the feed. I will remind them of why they might want to, so it's really, like, save time. It's like for this, it's a lot of ease and convenience.
Right.
It's take it on the go. It's get it, simplify your inbox because dear Lord, everyone's inbox, right? So that's, but like no one's like, woohoo,
Right.
more email.
Right.
Like this is exactly what I wanted for Christmas. So like all those things, but it's start to tease that. And then in addition to just saying like benefits focused, then I'll start to say, I might add an exclusive story in the audio that maybe I didn't put in the written one. And I might say something and maybe I'll send it tomorrow. But it's
Yeah.
like, how do I start to tease or encourage the audio consumption of it? Or maybe it's that we call them Easter eggs, right? So it's like, maybe I'll put an Easter egg in that, or I'm going to
Yeah.
reveal something, but only in the audio form. So definitely check it out or whatever that might look like for you. There's lots of different strategies, but it's just making it an incentive for them to take that step and to listen on audio.
I love that. And I actually have just started getting into this whole thing with funnels and all of this different stuff. So usually when somebody would get a guide, they just went onto my weekly email. Like I just tell a story once a week and here's my thing and it goes out. It's not a big deal. And now I'm learning I have all of these funnels and these things and all the stuff. But I do know, especially with my population that I work with, I would say probably 35% of them are much older, so in their 70s and older, right? So this whole idea of like a PDF download and getting all the things and it's like way over their head. Like, is there just a button I can click and just listen or read something? So I'm like, oh, maybe people do just want to like sign up for an email list and not get all the
Mm.
other things. But I've never gone forward facing with here's the opportunity to just listen to my nugget each week. And I'm kind of thinking that might be a really neat thing. I mean, my graphic I made the other day said it's like story time minus the bedtime. And
Mm.
so you
Oh,
should
nice.
listen to my message, right? Because my email that's just read to you. But I'm thinking that I might want to even experiment with just pushing that out more as opposed to sign up for my email list, which is kind of like, whatever, but this
Yeah.
might be a neat something.
Yeah. Kind of what Tarzan Kay does.
Yeah.
I think, she's also, and she's on one of our episodes and
Yeah, she's
I
a
can't
case study, yeah.
remember which one. We'll put that in the show notes as well. But she has a private podcast called Tarzan Reads Her Emails. That's what it's called. And
Mhm.
it's like, talk about straightforward, very direct. And at the bottom, and I want to say, and I don't have my inbox open right now, but I'm almost positive at the bottom of all of her emails, there was a graphic at the bottom and it said,
Would
maybe
you
it had,
rather read this?
yeah, would
Yeah,
you
something
rather
like
read
that.
this?
Or
Or
listen to
would
Right.
you
this,
rather
sorry. Yeah.
listen to this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And that's how she was able to promote the audio version of it. Is at the end of it's like the footer, I think, or maybe it was the
Interesting.
header. I don't know, either
Yeah.
one. But that's how she promoted the audio version. So yeah, would
Yeah.
it be easier if we just listened to this? Yes, it would. Thank you. And then she got people to go sign up for that.
Yeah, and she was big on like, yeah, accessibility. She wasn't super big on tracking. So I don't know how many people do. I don't know how many downloads, but she didn't make them sign up for it because so she uses what we call a universal link, which is it's still private, but it's not tied to someone's email address. So if they've already given you their email address, you don't really need to get it again, other than you could know that they're a listener type. But
Right.
she said they're very like, she goes, my listeners tend to get more excited about my offers. Like I'll like seed things there first, like to that feed. And she said they get like a little more like emotion, right? Because she's really
Right.
funny. And so she's just like, she's like, when I'm reading something, I like add these little side things that just like don't end up in my writing or don't fit.
Right.
And it can be off the cuff. And so she said that those people tend to be like more like constant readers and loyal, I guess, is like the
Yeah.
angle like she used. Yeah, I think it's interesting from that perspective, like how much of that list, like people that listen that converted, she doesn't, we were telling her, like, you should probably track this because if it's really big, like you might want to focus on that a lot more. Like, I think she offers them some incentives, like, oh, this is just for the listeners, so they feel
Right.
special.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so that's some insight onto how she's doing it.
All right. So I have to figure out what the universal link versus whatever else you said before too, but
Uh,
assuming there's information in the in the
Yeah, it's like
platform.
when you're in the feed, you can grab it. And that means if like someone knows what the universal link is, they could give it to anybody. So you would never want it to be something that's shareable because what makes our product, keep it actually not shareable is that unique link is tied to an email address. So I'm like, I
Gotcha.
hand you an RSS feed and it's only written for you and the email
Gotcha.
address you gave me. But a universal link is like a general universal link for the podcast that is private, not searchable on Apple. They still
Right.
have to have that link, but it is
Right.
shareable. So we
Gotcha.
use a universal link as an example for our coaching calls with our community because for us it's like we just need you to listen to it. We're not like tracking how many are listening. It's just like we need it as accessible as possible. You don't have to sign up. Like it's fine. So if you look at it from that angle, but then you do
Okay.
lose data. So we don't
Okay.
know who's accessing it or why. So if there's ever a reason why you would want that,
Yeah.
then you would wanna opt for them to sign up for it.
Okay. Because I think right now the link I have in the emails, it says, "If you don't wanna read this, listen to it," is just going to the sign up page. I think is that
Yeah,
what I created on
probably.
there where they could
That's
just go
fine,
there and
and
do
that
that?
could be
Is that
great because then you can track, like, who's raising their hand for that, then, like,
right.
how engaged they are, and then if you do start pitching on it or you do have a little ad spot at the front for a promo that you're running or something, then you actually have the data of who's converting to that,
Yeah.
which you would also have in your email because so it
Right.
what we basically saw podcast players as an inbox, and we looked at that and we're like, "Oh, we could, like, treat them like their email address is like they're an email platform. Like we're almost creating like
Right.
an email platform, but it's audio form. That's like our mentality was like, what do emails do?
Right.
Cool. Like we're going to try to do all of that with audio.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. And
So
then
the
if
way
I
people analyze tags and conversion rates and stuff like that, like essentially we want you guys to be able to do that with private podcasts.
and one quick question, if I add an email as a subscriber and they get my "you signed up for this yesterday" kind of thing, and then they don't somehow do whatever in that email, but they get my form and sign up, does it kinda marry the 2, like they were already invited and now they're signing up, or is it 2 people? Or does that question make sense?
Ooh.
It depends on what link they're sent.
Yeah.
Because if they opt in, so I opt in for your guide and you send me,
Mm.
do you just send me an email that says, hey, did you know that you can listen to this? And you send me to the sign up page?
I on that so you download the guide, and then the next day I'd go into Hello Audio and add your email address as a invite, a subscriber or something, and it has
Okay.
the default text that's in there. And then it goes out that says, "Hey, I know you signed up for a nugget yesterday to read it, but now you can listen to it if you'd like, sign up here." And I'm just wondering, I know some people have responded well to that. And I'm just wondering because in the email itself, the link is going to the sign up form. So I'm wondering if they were to click on that, if I'm going to end up with two people on the list now, or
So
if it's
they've
going to
already been
realize,
invited.
yes,
It sounds
for
like
some
you
of them would have been.
manually add do you manually put their
Yeah,
email
she's
address in?
manually doing
Okay,
that.
Yes.
so you're essentially sending them when you do that, when you manually enter that email address in, that's their unique link. You're sending them their
Right.
unique link.
That they
Now,
can
if
then
you
accept.
correct, yes. And
Yes.
if you send them an email with the sign up page, all they would be doing would be they'd be opting in, but you already opted them in. Like you already signed them up.
You know what'll happen
It's
is that if they click on that link, it'll say that they've already
they already
subscribed or that it's
subscribed.
not. Yeah, that's what'll happen.
Does that mean that they then don't know what to do next? And so I
Possibly.
shouldn't
Yeah, it's
do that?
almost duplicative because
Yeah.
you're sending them to a sign up page, but they've already been signed up for the feed.
Because when I invite them to the feed, it still says invited versus subscribed versus
Right.
Yes.
whatever. So
But
they're all
they've
just
received an
invited.
email. Yes, but
Okay.
they've already received
A
their
link has
unique
been
link.
generated for them
So
Yes.
the only
with
way they
that
can
email
accept
address.
it then is from that email that they initially got with the link. So
Yeah.
it would be recommended to not do that and then just send them the sign up page?
You can, or there's no need to send them the sign up page. You would just reinforce that you would say you've received access. Here's the email, here's the subject line, look for the link.
Right.
So you could
Mhm.
just refer them back to the email that they were sent when you signed them up for the feed.
Yeah, I'm just thinking for those that are on the email list that because I just started the audio part. So for those that have been subscribers from before that I'm not inviting because they're not new people coming in. So I just include that link on the email to be able to do that. Okay.
Yes, that
Yeah.
works.
If you don't already have access, they can sign up, which yes, that's fine. But
Right.
if I had already, even if I was just invited to your feed because I hadn't gone in and clicked the link yet
Yeah.
to load it into my player, but if you sent me the sign up page, our system would be like,
You're already here.
you've already
Mhm,
been
mhm.
invited. You've already been
Gotcha.
invited.
Okay. That makes
And
sense.
if someone comes back to you from a troubleshooting perspective and they're like, "I don't know what's happening," you can go into the feed and look at the listener and click on the 3 dots, and you could grab their link for them. And then so
Oh,
you could go,
okay.
"I could go get it for you," if that or you could resend the email. There's, like, 2 ways you could do it, but stick with that one the first one that was sent. Just so you
Gotcha.
know that's how you can manage that. You can give
Yeah.
it to them in that way if they get confused. Or
Gotcha.
you could reset it and generate a new link, but I would keep it in that email that they originally were sent the
Gotcha.
information, if that makes
Gotcha.
sense,
Okay.
as a, like,
Yeah.
contact.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Cool.
that and one other best practice I'll add just as a final tip here is that sometimes we all get busy, right? So we'll get invited and then we forget to load that into our podcast player. And so reminders are great. Also, a visual reminder is great as
Mm,
well. And so one of the things we'll recommend is that you add yourself, right? You subscribe to your own feed. But if you've ever used the like Loom, something like Loom, we commonly do that to when we're
Yep.
sending videos. You can have Loom on your phone and record yourself getting the email so people are seeing the podcast cover art that they would see in the email. They're seeing exactly what the subject line is. You can literally show them you're going to click on this button. You're going to be taken to a page where you select your favorite podcast player. If you don't have a favorite and you're on iOS, if you have an Apple device, I would recommend Apple Podcasts. If you're on Android, I would recommend whatever
Right.
podcast addict or whatever Android podcast app of choice is, and just tell them you just click the app and then it loads. But the visual, it's like a 60-second, less than 60-second
Nice.
video. But
Yeah.
sometimes that's enough for people to be like, oh, that's easy. Okay, I can do this.
Right.
And then they'll go look for the email and then get it done. But a lot of, especially if you're dealing with an older demographic that may not be avid podcast listeners. Some are in
Right.
that space, but some might not be. But they could be they could maybe access that a little easier if they
Yeah.
know how easy it is and what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say I'm surprised at how many of the older population are absolutely podcast listeners.
I
So
think
I
that's
wasn't
great.
expecting that. A lot of it is too because they just have a hard time reading. So it's so
Yes,
much easier to just
yes,
read it, to just listen to,
yes.
right?
mhm.
I'm
So
learning. I'm
I'm like,
learning
that's
that.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yes. I can talk. I can do that. That's fantastic. That's so much easier.
so much
Right.
easier. Yeah, I don't have to figure out where I left my readers. Yep.
Right.
Hmm. I love that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. I love this
Yeah.
coaching episode. These are
Yeah, new
now.
favorite
Yeah.
thing.
Sorry we gave you so much work to do. Sorry,
Yeah.
not sorry.
Yeah.
Also.
No, actually, it was really exciting. I so appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this with you both. And I did get a tremendous amount of information. I'm surprised at how quick the time went, but all the different ideas, again, not knowing what I did, but I did a
Mm,
thing. And that there's so much more opportunity out there that I could really use to be such a tool for my clients is like really
mm,
just making me like super excited, right? I could
yeah,
really make these so much more customized for my people and how much
mm,
easier it'd be for them to be able to consume. I mean, I'm an
right.
integration specialist, right? So if you can't get the data, you're not going to integrate it. And what a great way to help them do that. So
Oh,
I'm like
yeah.
so excited. So thank you so much for this.
Yay. You're
This is amazing.
welcome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for taking the time out of your day. And yeah, we can't wait to see what you create.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Take care.
And there you have it, audio heads. Another episode of Launch Your Private Podcast is in the books. I hope you're leaving today feeling even more ready to amplify your voice and connect with your audience in meaningful ways. The adventure continues in our next episode with even more insights, strategies, and inspiration to help you along your own private podcasting journey. Of course, make sure to check out helloaudio.fm to start your own private podcast. And remember, you've got amazing content that needs to be heard. So let's turn the volume up. Until next time.